Emily Willis was one of the most searched adult performers in the world. But then a rumor started to spread that she collapsed from ketamine after being placed in a center for rehab, and that she was now left with locked-in syndrome, able only to move her eyes. When I read that, I had a feeling that someone like Emily Willis, a famous porn star, would generate some kind of emotional reaction in some people. So I went on her Instagram and I saw those comments on her last post. She's my favorite vegetable. Please, just one more video. What's going on here? So this video is not about the ethics of porn. It's a valid topic, but not for today. Today is about something simpler and darker. It's about empathy and cruelty, and why we often choose one over the other. The difference between sympathy and empathy is that with sympathy, we only feel for someone. We go to someone and we say, I'm sorry to hear that you're living this, for example. Empathy is different. It is feeling with them. That means that rather than simply saying, I am sorry that you lost your brother, for example, we are going to put ourselves in the shoes of this person and try to get those emotions and really connect with what they're currently living. And some might say that it requires much more energy to be empathetic with someone rather than just sympathetic. Because when we look at the world, there is many horrible things that are happening. There is wars, there is cruelty, there is violence. And of course, we cannot connect emotionally with empathy with all of them. So I can grant that maybe when you read the news about Emily Willis, you might not have fully put yourself in her shoes to try to imagine what she's living currently. But those comments show that the problem with empathy is not the effort that we need to put in order to feel it. Because those people that wrote those comments, they expended a lot of energy that they could have invested in just being empathetic. Think about what they did. They read about this news. They decided to take their phone, to open her Instagram account, to come up with a horrible joke, to write it, and then to post it. That is not an impulse. That's a deliberate act. And in the same way, and even, I would argue, with even less efforts, they could have simply tried to understand that there was a human that was living a complicated situation. So it would have been easier, lighter, more human to simply pause and try to feel that. So empathy doesn't need to be this huge effort that we need to expend. It can simply be the choice of not disconnecting from reality. But now let's look at the authors rather than the emotion, at those people famously called trolls. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil." So he wasn't surprised by cruelty. He was expecting it from reality. But here is the danger. If we reduce people to just cruel, we let ourselves off the hook. We become the good ones surrounded by monsters, and that's too convenient. What if cruelty is more widespread than we want to admit? What if even decent people take part in it every day? So let's test our own moral clarity here. And you might hate vegans and you might roll your eyes when you hear a vegetarian talking, but I think there is something that we can all agree, that intensive farming causes animal suffering. And stick with me because, of course, this discussion is a huge debate. I'm not here to enter this debate. I can do it in another video if that's interesting. The purpose of this is simply to give an example of cognitive dissonance with our own morals. So grant me that by listening to this example. Thank you. So back to the animals. In this scenario of intensive farming, the chickens are packed in cages. The pigs don't have enough space to even turn around, and the cows are impregnated over and over and over. And the only assumption that we have to make is that those creatures are conscious. They can feel, they have desires, they have emotions. Jeremy Bentham put it clearly when he says, "The question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer?" What he meant was that the requirement to be considered as a moral agent is not reason or being a human, but rather the capacity to suffer. So why am I talking about animals now? Because many people that agree that those animals are conscious and that they can suffer still will go on social media, look for vegan content or vegetarian content, and drop jokes about bacon. They post meme mocking animal activists. Why? Because it's not really about the arguments. It's about signaling, about gaining social points from a group, and about saying, I'm part of the normal tribe, not like those others. And if the animal debate feels too emotionally loaded for you, then let's take the example of homelessness. If you scroll to posts showing someone sleeping in the streets, you will find comments. And in these comments, you will find jokes, you will find memes, you will find people mocking their smell, their looks, the way they live. Once again, suffering becomes a prop. So the cruelty is not always conscious, but it's real and it's routine. Let's take the example of one of my friends actually. He is very smart, he is thoughtful, he is kind to all of his friends. But online, he is a troll. He leaves sarcastic comments, he mocks certain creators, he joins in when someone's getting dogpiled. And so of course I asked him why. And he said, I don't know, it's just funny. People do that online. But humor isn't one thing. There are different types of it. Henri Bergson, a French philosopher, said that laughter is a form of social correction. So we laugh at what doesn't fit in. Others have claimed that laughter can also come from surprise or from a certain relief from tension. Some humor is self-directed, some is absurd, and some is directed at others to show that they're part of a lower social status. And in this last kind, we're basically trying to build a hierarchy. We're telling the others, look, I am above this person. Join me in the laughter. And it's not new. The Greeks have been doing it in plays and the Romans in public forums. What is new is the scale and the distance. Back then, the humiliation of it maybe reached a few hundred people. But now with internet, this audience turns into millions. Every mockery turn into a global spectacle. And so when you troll, you're not just expressing yourself. You're sending this signal to your tribe. You're basically saying, I belong, I share your values, and I'm not soft. And who gets targeted? Well, the people who already stand outside the norm. And that is the porn stars, the vegans, the LGBTQ+, the minorities. The more marginal the person, the easier the hit. And I am actually really shocked at how much racist content is on social media nowadays. It's no longer hidden, it is trending. So trolling becomes a ritual of exclusion. That's a way to say they are not like one of us. So Emily Willis is not just a person. She became a symbol of a lifestyle some envy, some hate, and some can't understand. And trolling her isn't about her, it is about us. And this is a global phenomenon. There are TikTok accounts that exist simply to mock people. Some YouTube channels are built around cringe compilations. Gossip pages thrive on takedowns. The crueler, the better. Plato once asked, why do we love tragedy? Those plays are basically showing the worst that can happen in life. It's about murder, about wars, about despair. And he was worried that indulging in it would make us worse, that we enjoyed the fall too much. And later David Hume tried to explain it. And he basically said that we turn this pain that we're seeing into pleasure thanks to the distance that we have from the play and from the characters. When it's not our suffering, when it's simply fiction, we are able to enjoy it. But now, what if the distance is fake? And what if the suffering is real? And what if there are people behind it? People that are gonna read those horrible comments. This is not a stage anymore. It is reality. And we've seen the consequences. There are people that were pushed to suicide. There are teenagers that are bullied because of the way they talk or the way they look. And there also are creators that had to stop what they love doing because of all this negativity. And every time we ask, how could that happen? But the answer is often very simple. There are a few people that thought that their joke wouldn't matter. Too many acted out of insecurity and they wanted approval. They wanted likes. Ask yourself, would a fulfilled, peaceful, emotionally grounded person go on an Instagram account of someone with locked-in syndrome and comment, "She's my favorite vegetable"? Really? Why would they? So trolling isn't edgy. It's not rebellion. It's not harmless. It is the public mocking of someone else's suffering for your own social reward. It is the killing of empathy by 1,000 jokes. And if we can see someone in locked-in syndrome and think, this is my moment for a punchline, the problem is not them, it is us. So next time you scroll past a moment of suffering from a human or an animal or a stranger or an enemy, pause. Don't perform, don't posture. Just really feel. Because the more we laugh at suffering, the less human we become.